Pierre Lemaire, thank you so much for being a guest on In Studio today.
It's a pleasure.
First time I worked with you, Pierre, I'm going to just jog your memory a little bit. It was a function for BCIC,
Oh my God.
I believe at the Pegasus.
Right.
And you staged an accident.
Yes, I remember with the smoke machine.
Yes, and a lot of... Were those actors your students?
Yes, they were my
Yeah.
students, and that must have been in... Wow, when was it?
I don't
2000...
Early 2000s, maybe.
Early 2000 something.
We're still shooting on tape.
Yes.
And you borrowed my clipboard for that, and you never returned it. But it's okay.
But that's why I keep asking myself, why do you have an extra keyboard at home?
That's okay. That's quite fine. I just remember that was the first time. I think I met you before when you were at Global Media.
Right. Yeah.
Is Global Media still an entity?
Global Media is still there.
Yeah.
We don't do ads anymore. We just do billboards and outdoor advertising and also screens. Advertising on screens in different places.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, but before we continue, I just want to shout out to Creative Sounds Studios in Kingston, Jamaica. We're hosting us today, and Creative Sounds, of course, is a music production and audio production facility. They make commercial jingles for TV and radio commercials, and they produce music beds for all types of audio productions. And of course, they do podcasts like we're doing today. So, Parisian ended up in Jamaica. Tell me about that situation that brought you here.
Okay, what happened at that time in France? Every young Frenchman had to do military service, except if you were a university graduate. First, they gave you time to send you before you finish university, if you were registered there. Then you could apply to go in cultural services abroad, but it was very, very difficult. You need daddy, well-placed and with connection to do that. I managed to do that because at the time I applied for that, I didn't want to be a soldier. My hair was down to my shoulder in those days and so on. So I applied for it. It went 76. There was a double page in a French newspaper about Jamaica, the election. That was like May 76. And violence, curfew. So all the well-placed people didn't want to send their children there. So they said, you want to go to Jamaica? I said, yeah, sure. And that was it. I came here. And for me, I felt at home. You know, when God on his computer made a mistake and you are born in the wrong place. So I corrected it. In France, I was always late. Here, I ended up being on time because I was less late than the others. I was always cold. Here I was fine. So everything was perfect. It just aligned perfectly.
Awesome.
I had a blast. And during that time, I met Dennis Scott's wife because she was a French teacher. And she said, oh, but you are trained in theater, so you have to meet my husband. Go to Dennis Scott's house for dinner. Became friend. Dennis said, when you finish with that, come to drama school. We need a mime teacher. And I was specializing in mime. So I said, yeah, man, yeah. Of course, you think that it's just words, you know. With Dennis Scott, it's not words.
And Dennis Scott was the director of the drama school.
He was the director of the drama school. So, of course, I was like, wow, this guy tell me that director of drama school, choreograph, playwright, actor, you know, it was, whoa. And I finished my time here. I met my wife here, Caroline, who is Jamaican. She had planned to go to study French in France. She started here at the Alliance and went to France. So we went at the same time. We got married in Paris. And then I got a telegram, because of course there was no email at the time, telegram from Dennis to say, I have your job for you. So we put up the car in a boat, one-way ticket to Jamaica, and we came back.
In a boat?
Yes, the car. We put the car in the boat. No, we took the one-way ticket airline, but we had to put our car in the ship.
You shipped the car to Jamaica.
We shipped the car to
Jamaica.
Jamaica.
I got you.
Which was a very old car, so it was funny. When it came, it was more rusty than when it left.
because of the ship, because of the
Yeah,
sea,
because
the
the
sea
sea
journey.
for like 4 months.
But you also had to abort your master's studies.
Yes.
Because of the
Because of it.
the
So,
potential for military service.
well, what
and
happened
coming
really
here.
by coming here? Because I should have gone in September normally, and they told me in end of May. They tell me, well, there is that space in Jamaica, but you have to leave in June. And in my master, I had done research on the creative creation, and I was working with one of my teacher at the School of Drama in my university, and his company, very known theater company at the time, Théâtre de l'Aquarium. And they were working on a production. I was working with them. I did all my research in the creation of the production, etc. But the production opened in September, and I couldn't be there to open the production, so I couldn't finish it because I couldn't put all the part about the production, the feedback, comparing what was planned with what was finished. And by the time I came back to France after my initial year and a half here, that production had gone, and they were not playing it again. So I would have started all over again and lose two years that I did on my master. So just for 3 months, that couldn't finish.
Tell me about what drew you to drama in the first place.
An history teacher. Because what was interesting is, a teacher, for me, that's why I love teaching. A good teacher motivates students and share the knowledge. Some teachers are too stuck in their ways. That history teacher was doing a class for us. We were the equivalent of, it would be the last 2 years of high school before going university. And it was on the French Revolution. And he said, well, there is a play on the French Revolution, so I'm going to take all the class there. And we said, it's going to be boring, a play on the stage like that, sitting down and thing. When we came there, it was a very modern company as well, called Théâtre du Soleil, who have changed the style of theater in France from those days, and they're still active now. And we came in this big place, huge place, no seats, nothing. And we said, but hold on, that's not a theater, that. And there were a couple of boxes and a little, not a stage, a little stage, like 10 feet by 15 feet. And that's it. And several boxes all around. So we walked there. It was about 400 people in the audience. And we wonder what happened. And then we see some actors coming in costume of the people of Paris in 1789. And they started to talk very softly. So it was like 10 of them. So group of spectators gathered around them to hear what they say. And they were talking about the kid was wicked and the situation is bad. And the more they went and the higher their voice went. And so the audience started to react to the tension they were bringing. And then another group of actors dressed as the soldiers of the king came and moved, dispersed the crowd and get out and go to your yard, etc. And the revolutionary people of Paris gave us fake stone, which were made of sponge, to stone that fake police that we did. And they were really rough. In fact, they were pushing the audience. So the audience reacted. And then we realized that we were part of the play. We played the people of Paris during the revolution. And the whole play was like that. So sometimes things happen on those little stages, like statement given by those historical people, and then the audience became the crowd again. And when I came out of that, I remember going home and telling my parents, this is what I want to do.
How did they react?
My dad said, you crazy, you're going to go and be a teacher or something, you need a regular salary, you can't do that, theater is not going to pay the rent. And I said, well, my previous choice was to do philosophy. So I said, I'll do philosophy and maybe a minor in theater. I said, oh, good. When I register at the university now, I see all the courses on theater. I drop philosophy and take everything theater. Even my English class was about Shakespeare and was about English theater. Everything which was that we had to do, I found a way to do it within the theater, you know?
Wow.
And then I became friend with some of my lecturers who were professional directors who took me to help them as intern doing the photo spot and then working on the lights. And then after 3 years, I was the assistant director of my lecturer. And then I went home and said, listen, I'm working with so-and-so, giving the big name of the actors who are in our plays. And my friend said, oh, so that's not a bad choice after all, you know?
Nice. Well, so you took that trip to Jamaica. When you came here, you were working with the French embassy.
Yes.
And exactly what were you doing in that period?
They had an agreement with the Jamaican government, and I was to teach French, that I did, to Jamaican officials. So I had like the late Peter King, who was in charge of international trade and so on. I had some senators, and I had, of course, a lot of young diplomats people who were going to be sent in French-speaking countries all over the world. And in fact, one of my students, when we got married in France, thank God, because there was a Jamaican embassy in Paris, and he was posted there, so he's the one who helped us with all the papers, which came through the Jamaican diplomatic bag to reach on time there.
Awesome. So you started working at the School of Drama.
Yeah.
Well, before even that, though, why do you specialize in mime?
Well, you see, I work with the disabled, right? A lot in theater.
In France?
Here.
Yeah.
And I have, when I talk to people about it, I always, if I do a talk with it, I have a slide which says, this space, ability. And then the next slide says, that space, ability. Because for me, every disability you have, you compensate. I cannot hold a tune. I cannot sing, right? Totally out of tune. So, of course, I had to push the other side, which is the body work. So I specialize in physical theater and mime. So that way, I compensated the disability of singing out of tune.
What does physical theater mean?
It means working on stage, either in a play or part of a play, without word, basically. Not just miming, doing precise little, but expressing the whole dramatic through the body or the bodies that say. I still teach movement for actors at drama school now, and we're creating story where the bodies become 8 people become one animal, and then blam it moves into something else, and so it's really using the bodies to create the drama.
So you're at the drama school and you're teaching now,
Mm-hmm.
and you're making an impact on these students. Tell me about that experience of teaching and learning at a drama school.
It was really a great experience because remember, I was coming from a different culture. So I always said that I have 3 godparents in Jamaica: Dennis Scott, Barbara Gludent, and Olive Lewin. Those 3 people are my culture godparents. They introduce me to the Jamaican culture and make me do things in it. But working with the young students, I mean, I was 26 and they were 18, 19, 20 years old. So we didn't have that much difference in terms of age. So I could really share with them and they could share with me. And they opened me totally to the what I would call the deep or Jamaican culture, because you have the Jamaican culture that you read about, that you see, etc., in the theater and so on, and you have the everyday culture, what culture comes from this everyday and the roots. And of course, my students were Bello, Blacka, String Bing, Mikey Nicholson, Claudette Pierres, and all those people. So, and they are very creative and rich people. So you learn from them as much as you teach them, you know. So that was really a great time, because having really the luck to have those people to interact with. And of course, I still have plenty now very talented young people at drama school in my class. But of course, the age gap is much bigger. Well, and in those times, the age gap was small. So we were more friends than teacher-students.
A lot of your students have become quite famous, but there is a I want to say a gap between the amount of students who study drama and the outlet for drama in a small place like Jamaica.
There is.
How do you reconcile that?
Okay, that's not easy. It's better now. It's getting better. But especially then it was difficult, at least for the drama done in the big theaters and so on, because people used to use always the same people, basically, and because they want to bank on the known people. But in those days, we also had still a lot of community drama, because it was a time where Jamaica was growing and there was a lot of social messages to be given around. And we had, it was on the curriculum at drama school, the community drama. So we did, our students were going with us to do, well, in fact, you were talking about that BCIC, even that type of drama that you don't do in the theater, but you apply it to different situations. So that is still there. It was existing at the time. So we had students who went to drama, but of course the good thing is drama is in the curriculum at school. So they could teach drama during the day and practice drama in the evening, like all of us artists in Jamaica do, because Jamaica doesn't have the financial means to sponsor the artists to work full-time as artists. But since we teach, unlike a lot of developed countries who don't, we teach arts in the schools. So it means the artist can teach its art form and then practice it outside of it. Just like when you look at the NDTC dancers, all of them do something else. Thank God, plenty of them teach dance in school or at School of Art, School of Dance at ENNA. So it's no big deal. You don't feel frustrated because your everyday job is still related to your art form. Now, some of my past students still do drama in the evening, and they are lawyers during the day or insurance people. So sometimes they must be a bit more frustrated because they can use the art form only in the evening, you know. But at least when you teach it during the day, it's a continuation, and you prepare the younger people to appreciate your art form.
And as a part-time teacher myself, I've found that at some level, when you teach, you learn.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, there's some learning going on for you, the teacher, as well.
Yes.
Which is a great thing.
Yes, because also with the simple fact that those students being much younger than we are, and especially me, I'm older than
I'm
you.
getting close though.
I can see the grays. But the students have a different approach, let's say, to social media, etc. Like at Carimac, where we are dealing with communication. The communication we were used to before was more, how could I say, more difficult to approach technically. You couldn't say to your parents, for Christmas I want a camera, right? But now you can film from your phone, and everybody use the phone to film. So it means they have a natural approach to the technical aspect. So that for us is very important, because so I see now the class I do at Carimac, which is visual and graphic, because that is the other side of me. And my students, before I used to say, okay, we use Photoshop, etc. Now I say, okay, we'll use Photoshop to finish up the work. You can start with Canva because you're accustomed to use Canva. So use it, and then we'll finish it in Photoshop, and you'll personalize it because you will have more tools there. But at least they already have a sense of what can be done, and so that our student before, when we were students, we didn't have that. We came fresh.
Absolutely. So I'm going to segue now into your advertising life.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in advertising?
Okay, first of all, I was drawing all the time. I started to draw before I could talk. My first word in French, crayon, which means pencil. Because I wanted my parents to give me one so I could keep drawing. Always drew. I used to do cartoons of my teacher, which put me in trouble when I was in high school and make the whole class laugh, etc. And then when it was time to go to university, I love theater, but my dad said, so what about the idea also of doing graphics? So we had a non-graphic artist across the street from us. So one day, I wait until him come from his yard, and blop, I go and talk to him. And I say, should I go to a school of art to be trained? He said, you know what, if you want to work, they will tell you, we don't take you because you have the style of the school which train you. But they won't take you either if you don't go to a school, because they will say you didn't get official training. So he said, do whatever you want. So I went and did theater, but I kept drawing. When we came back from Jamaica, for the year we were back in France and got married, there was no job in the theater waiting for me because I came at the odd time of the year. So I said, let me go back to university, and I did communication. And then again, my lecturer there after a while said, listen, you're losing your time there. I have a communication company. Come and work with me. And I went to work with him. And he put me in charge of the communication for his company. They had a contract in Grenoble in the Alps. And he said, I send you there and you're in charge of that. So I learned communication, I worked in it, and apply my graphic skill as well, and my theater skills, because communication, when we shoot an ad, the theater skills are quite important. So when I came here, when we came back here and started to teach at drama school, it was part-time. So you can't live on a part-time salary. So I was teaching at drama school part-time, teaching French in prep school, high school, UE, everywhere, and started to freelance in advertising. I started with PC Harris. He used to have DPEC Communications. And then I was in charge of the graphic with him. We had some funny time, like I designed the stuff for the bobsled team, the T-shirt with the bobsled in 1988, and I saw the CNN guys wearing my T-shirt. Look, so it felt good. And then I was always between drama and advertising, full-time in advertising at a point, part-time at drama school, then full-time at drama school, part-time, and according to who was there, who I was working with, and finally full-time with Alwyn Scott in global media, and we had before advertising associates, and keeping my part-time at drama school. And in 2000, Eugene Williams said, come back full-time drama school, I need you full-time. And it was more important for me that to work in drama, at drama school, full-time, sharing my art form with young people, than knowing if my client will sell more chicken at the end of the week with my ad. So it was it was really that choice of I prefer to teach than to do that, even if advertising was fun when we had a creative session, and it can go until 2 o'clock in the morning when we're preparing a campaign. I mean, I work with great people. Alwyn Scott, Brian Heap was working with me in drama, was also in our advertising company, Joey Clark. So we had a lot of people who do theater and advertising, and of course PC Harris and all the people from CTS. And it was a funny time. We enjoyed.
But advertising has changed, though, completely.
Totally. It's what I realized.
I mean,
now.
the agencies aren't what they used to be. The agencies used to be these powerful organizations.
Yes.
Now you have a phone, you have an agency.
That's it. Yeah, totally. I see a lot of freelancer. We used to call that freelance.
Yes.
Now
they're mainstream.
Yeah.
Now they're social media
That's it.
experts and influencers and whatnot.
Exactly. It has changed a lot.
That's changed. I suspect, though, that the old days were more fun.
It was.
Because of the collaboration and the quality of
especially
work and
that
so on.
collaboration, like this studio here, I remember coming with Mrs. Magnus, and say, Pierre, come, I need this. And meeting here. And even if you are working with one group, you work with the others as well. We always, I remember at the end of the year, we used to meet all together and make spoof of the TV ad that we were all created. And normally we did that by the CTS. It was CTS, right? We did it in there. They had a big room, so we had drink and so on, and show each other the spoof that we had shot, mocking our own ads, and it was great. And it was everybody together like that. So there was that community with Chappie, Saint-Just, and Jeremy Francis, and
Yes. And I mean, Jeremy's still my colleague, but Chappie passed. But Chappie was also my teacher at Carmack.
Yeah.
And but he was legendary, obviously.
Chappie was.
Yeah.
I mean, Chappie did my lights also for theater so many times.
Yeah.
So you see, it's weird now when we advance in age. Like I'm working on a project now for a play that I'm going to do in September. I said, okay, so lighting. So my first reaction, I'll call Chappie. Of course, Chappie not here anymore. He's doing lighting for the big band up there now. So I said, okay, for my music, my choice is Ibo Cooper, or it could be also Conroy Cooper, because Conroy has done, both of them gone now. So, and they are the first person that when you created something, you chat with them, you say, okay, I'm planning to do this and that, what's your feedback? And then can you work a music on it? And they would come with something great. So it's kind of difficult now because the address book is becoming smaller and smaller. And I'm not sure there is that much will of sharing thing. Because before we could call these people and say, Chappie, I need an idea for this. And Chappie wouldn't say, well, you have to pay me for it. We just discuss it and get excited. It had that, it's the passion, which is not always there anymore. I think now a lot of people, both sometime in theater, unfortunately, and in advertising, are more in it for the business than for the passion. But of course, that's why we're all still poor, because we work for the passion rather than the business.
I tell people sometimes, I wish I was a business person more than an artist. The artist thing didn't work out very well financially.
No, exactly. But it has been fun.
It has been enormous fun and great experiences. So you went back to drama school, and you impacted all these students, and you got involved with the disabled.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
It started with Brian Heap and Carlene, my wife. We started Kids Stuff Young People Theatre in 1981 when we were training young kids from anywhere. So we had uptown kids, downtown kids. That was great. We had kids with disability, kids without. Everybody worked together. And it was great. You had very uptown kids. They told their parents, when they go shopping in Miami for back to school, bring back also a knapsack and this and that for the little Noemi because parents won't be able to afford it. So that was that mix in our group. And then I realized that kids with disability can function if they are, how could I say, taken in a group looking after them. Then after that, in about 86 or 85, Brian was working with the very special art festival in the States, and he said, well, could you do something with the deaf? So we put a group together, did using mime and bodywork because they are deaf, but when you do mime, nobody cares if you are deaf or not. So, and the deaf people express themselves in a very extremely talented way in terms of bodywork. So we created a nice thing, took it to Washington. We all received at the White House. I mean, my little deaf young people, that nobody cared here, received at the White House.
Who was the president at the time?
Was
the president?
Bush, the Father Bush.
Okay.
Father Bush.
Yeah.
And so it was great for them and for us, of course. And then after that, I said, okay, I need to continue. So I started to do on and off work with the deaf. I remember in 2000, I think, at Namanle, they had a project and they asked me to do that show, and I had like 110 young deaf people. So of course they had asked some of the students or teachers to work with them, and Barbara Requa was the head of, and Barbara called me and said, Pierre, this thing is not working. You have to come and work, because do something with it, because they're driving me nuts. We'll never be ready. So when I go there, I realized that some of the lecturers or the young artists working with the deaf were good, but they didn't put themselves in the deaf culture and the deaf approach. So like one of the girls said to me, they always miss their cues. They make a lot of noise backstage and they always peep to see. And then I said to her, well, when you are backstage, how do you know it's going to be your cue? Well, I hear it. Yes, you do. How you know? I said, that's why they're peeping, because they want to know if it's time. I said, they make noise because they don't hear it. So when I worked with them, I put 3 lights backstage, red, amber, and green. So red means nobody move and make noise, because dragging the chairs or laughing and so on, they don't know the level of sound. Red, we kept quiet. Orange, stand by to get on stage. So you get ready in your position. Green, zoop, you get on stage. Nobody missed a cue. Yeah, but you have to get it right. So did that. That worked well. It was fun. And then kept working on and off. And in, when was it? I was asked by the School of Hope to put on at the beginning it was a workshop for a year. And the workshop was sponsored by Chase. And Mrs. Duncan was the head of the School of Hope at the time. She passed, unfortunately. And I went there with a couple of my students, some from School of Music, some School of Dance, and School of Drama, of course. And we worked with the young people. And it was mental disability. And each one of them had a different type of disability. So it took a lot of time, because you have to find how each is working. But that is beautiful too. And at the end of about a year, I said to her, well, we're going to perform now. She said, it's fine, you did well now with them. You can stop there. I said, no, we don't rehearse without performing. We don't work on theater without performing. They need to perform. So we took the Philip Sherlock Center at UE for 3 nights. And then it was something magic happened. Like in theater, it's always magical. But we had in that group a young man who was 25, I think, and heavily autistic. So he was totally closed. He just walked slowly, focus on his own focus. But the group took him all the time. He did the stuff with the group. And he moved along, but very in a stocky way, and came the take rehearsal with the light, the sound, the music. Bam, bam, he moved with everybody and him smile and laugh. And his parents were beside me and Mrs. Duncan beside me. His parents cried, said, Pierre, we never see him smile. And light went, close back. Following day, dress rehearsal, come alive on stage again. And every one of the show came alive on stage and close back. So it's sure that we have to find the trigger. So I wish I was somebody working with him all the time and say, how can we apply that now in everyday life? But there was also a young drummer, and that a young kid. During the rehearsal, he was always, when we are drumming, he was drumming on his legs like that. So one night, I brought my repeater drum from home, and I give it to him, and him start drumming on it. So then I asked, I think it was Calvin from School of Drama, the drummer from and lighting man from School of Drama, was helping us in the show during the drumming. So I said, Calvin, teach him some drumming. So he taught him some drumming. This kid was disabled, a little physically, and a little retardation. But you could see when he was moving and so on that it was not the norm. So it means that everybody in his area and so on were making fun at him, etc., etc. And he did a show, drumming in the show. Okay? Perfect. Then I had him coming to summer school at School of Music doing drumming. He did trap set and thing. About 5 years later now, coming out of my class at Carrimack, and the guard at the gate by post office gate stopped me and said, I remember you. You are the man who did the show with my neighbor, Michael the drummer, which means in his area now, he's known as Michael the drummer, which is great because he drums very well. So finally, he's recognized as who he is and not as, oh, him work funny.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So it changes, the art can change really the self-esteem of the one practicing it, but will also change the way people look at you, because they tend to look at you with their prejudice. And all of a sudden, they accept, there is no more prejudice because they accept you as the artist. And that is great.
It gives you status.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It does. And it shows you're positive.
Yeah.
You see my thing, this ability, that ability. We always compensate. So everybody who has a minus, and that's first teacher is good to know, because everybody who has a minus has a plus somewhere in them. It's for us to find the plus, to make them push that.
Awesome. But you had an accident one day at school that made you
disabled.
Well, that made you relate
for a while. Yeah.
How did that happen, and what happened?
So I love to say that it's the fault of string bean, Michael Nicholson. If Michael hears that, he will know and go shame like dog and hide. Because in the class, it was a movement class where I show stunts, teach stunts and so on. So I used to have a 8-foot ladder and show, or even the smaller one at the beginning, I use a 5-foot ladder, show them how to sit on top of the ladder and fall, and we roll when we reach the ground. And then some tried it with me. I demonstrated on the 8-foot ladder, and we had got a brand new 15-foot ladder for the lights. And the class finished now. I said, okay, we're going home. And Michael Nicholson says, sir, you wouldn't dare doing it from that one. If he had said it in a different way, maybe I wouldn't have. But he said, you wouldn't dare. So I put a ladder, make the ladder fall, because I'm very professional, make it fall, look at the speed, climb on top of the ladder and say, oh God, it's high. But it should work. What I didn't think of is a 15-foot ladder is much wider. So to make it fall, I had to put much more energy and got a wrong movement on top, and I carried the wrong movement to the bottom. So I came on my two bare feet, flat, bam, and they cracked, they shattered. The sole of the feet shattered. So I was in a wheelchair for a month or two, and then on crutches for a month or two, then with big bandages on my feet for 8 months. So being in a wheelchair, I really realized that the restriction we had on a wheelchair, the frustration, not only frustration of not being able to move, because after a while we manipulate the wheelchair well, so within the restriction we can do a lot. That's why I love the Paralympian when they do sport on a wheelchair and so on, because they find that strength of. But it's the way people look at you, even the way people talk to you. You know, sometimes I used to say, my leg are broken, not my brain. You can't talk normally. You know, it's because all of a sudden there is this approach. Yeah, you are in a vulnerable position because they're all standing and you are lower on your wheelchair. You cannot move like they do. Nothing is done for you. The only time we could go cinema was the drive-in, because in those days there was a drive-in. And Brian Heap was staying with us at that time because he was looking for a house. He was in between two houses, so he stayed in our guest room, thank God. So he had to put me on his shoulder in the morning, carrying my wheelchair, and then put me in the car. And I went to teach every day on the wheelchair.
So you could surely relate to a disabled person, physically
totally,
disabled.
Totally.
Wow.
Totally.
Wow.
Because it was, doing that short experience, I really realized how difficult it is. And still today, it's still difficult to be disabled in Jamaica.
Better than before, but still difficult.
Better than before, but still difficult.
So you became head of the drama school after a while?
I became, I went full time. I became in charge of, what was it, the BFA department. And then I became assistant director. Eugene Williams was the director. I was the assistant director. Eugene retired, and I became the director, and then the dean, because we changed from directors to dean. So when I was the dean of drama school, what was interesting is the desk I had was the desk that Dennis Scott had. Same desk, the desk hasn't changed. We moved office from one part of the building to another, same desk. And always I carried that picture of Dennis Scott that I had put on my wall, the one with the smile, not the official one, but the one with that very special smile that Dennis had. And when as the dean, you have all those administrative reports to do and things. I used to look at that picture and say, you see, it's your fault. And it was like he was laughing at me, say, I caught you,
So I saw a picture of you in the Jamaica Journal when you were young. No mustache.
No mustache.
What brought on a mustache?
Jamaica. No, what happened is I was doing a show in France when I had a fake mustache. And I liked it. So I started to try to grow a mustache, but it takes time. So every day when you badly shave, because the mustache is just growing, but not a mustache, people say, you didn't shave today? I said, oh God, so you go back home and you shave. When I reach here, my first morning in Jamaica, I take my shaver, ready, and I say, but hold on, I don't know nobody here. Nobody is going to tell me you badly shaved. So I said, it's the place to grow my mustache. And
that was it. So it's a Jamaica stash then?
It's a more Jamaica stash, totally.
No, when I called you the other day, you were driving to Portland. Do you travel Jamaica a lot? Do you travel the countryside?
A lot. I think I'm the one who made my Jamaican wife discover the cockpit country in 1977 or something like that. I used to, less now, but used to go all over the place. And Portland is a soft spot because I met Carlin in Portland. So that's where we met, at Goblin Hill. I was doing shows there during a French month. And after that, when we went, and when Dennis said, come back, We came back, but the contract was not ready. We had to wait 6 months. So he said, shoot, we're going to be 6 months without doing nothing. So we bore my sister-in-law's car, because ours was still on the sea, on its way, and go to Portland to Goblin Hill and have a drink there, and so it's where we met. It's, as they say, Goblin Hill, c'est magnifique. It was the T-shirt saying that, and it's true, it's still magnifique, magnificent. And we met Rosalie Goodman there, and Marvin, and they say, oh, Pierre, Caroline, you are back. And we say, yes, we are back, but for 6 months we have to find something to do. They say, well, we need somebody to run Goblin Hill for 6 months. Would you do it? So I said, sure. So Goblin Hill was a home in Port Antonio, in San for 6 months. So therefore, it looked like Portland always been part of us. And so, of course, we carry our kids to Portland regularly. So our son, Adrien, and Danielle Crosskill, his wife, got married in Portland. And we were with them. The whole family was in Portland that weekend, last weekend.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, every year, since I've had cable, I watch the Tour de France bike race, and there are places in France that remind me of Jamaica, the stone cuttings and so on.
Yes.
Do you find that?
Yes, and you see, when people knew I was going to Jamaica, they said, oh, you're going to be bored because it's a small island, and they thought it was like Cayman. And then I always tell the people, Jamaica reminds me a lot of France for that, because you have different type of area. If you're in the south coast with the dark beaches, it's totally different than Ocho Rios, Montego Bay, different from Portland, different from St. Thomas in the mountain, like between Portland and St. Thomas, where when you're on the top of the Rio Grande. It's every place is different. And just like in France, if you go to the north of France, sometimes you feel you are like in Germany, sometimes you feel like you are in Switzerland, sometimes you feel like you are in Italy. So it has that variety. And there are some places which are very similar. Like when you look around Mandeville, it could be very much in the center of France, where you have those hills very green with the cow there. And say, hold on, I'm really in Jamaica, and it's cold in Mandeville. So yeah, a lot of places you have similarity. And what I found very interesting, as a theater people, you look at people, how they move, how they walk. And I realized that when you take a French farmer and you take a Jamaican farmer, they look much more alike than the Jamaican farmer and a Jamaican lawyer, a French farmer and a French lawyer. So basically what you do change also your way of moving, your way of dressing, and so on. So the people are very similar. And that's why I always felt at home here, because for me, the people are all the same. It's not a matter of color, a matter of hair, of shape, or it's really a matter of the personalities, and you realize that some personalities are very similar, 8,000 miles from each other, and they should meet because they feel like same way, they move same way, etc. They are similar. So we really, it's really a global world, because all those people are similar, except them don't know about it.
Well, Pierre, I can't thank you enough. It's been a pleasure today, and a pleasure being a colleague of yours at Caramac, and I look forward to maybe doing a part 2 at some point.
We have to do that sometimes.
Yes.
It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Okay, my brother.